The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're just going to wait for everybody to come into the event space, and then we'll get started. We're so glad that you're here to learn about how to recruit employees and students. We have resources for you, gifts for you, and we're glad that you could make it. So just another few seconds, and then we'll get started. My name is Deborah Rowe. I'm president of the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development, and I'm your moderator for today. Okay, we'll get started, and here we go. The topic is how to recruit employees and students, and what are the tools and the strategies that exist in the clean energy and energy efficiency fields for this. The purpose of today is to give you gifts. We are here to help you get more students. If you need students as a training organization or educational institution, to get more employees, and also to enhance the diversity and inclusion of those underrepresented groups that are going to be so valuable to you. I don't know why that slide just went off, so we'll continue. Okay. So the purpose of today, and to be more specific, is to give you these gifts. We're here to help you increase enrollment in your educational and training pathways that lead to careers in residential energy efficiency. So that's in the HVAC area, the heat pumps, and also, of course, home performance and energy efficient construction and retrofits. We're looking to help you boost the number of workers that you have and high quality workers that are entering the home performance, energy efficiency, and heat pump field. And also, of course, to enhance the diversity and inclusion of underrepresented groups in these areas, because it makes your company or your organization more successful, and also because it fits into the main thrust of the Inflation Reduction Act and many of the grants that are coming out and support incentives that are coming out through that. We've actually created a whole toolkit for you, and it has practical resources. I'm going to try and keep that from happening again. Let me see. Nice to share my face with you, but I really want to share these slides. There we go. Okay. So we created a toolkit with practical resources. You can use these resources freely. You can customize them to your organization, and the intention is that organizations throughout the U.S. can use these. So I've already told you who I am. I'll also be joined today by Larry Zarker, as you know, the CEO of the Building Performance Institute, and Kelly Carey, who's the Marketing and Communications Specialist. And we're also joined by two U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development team members, Angela, who is the Climate Fellow, and Sarah Hill, who actually is a Climate Fellow, but also the Energy Transition Specialist. So now I'm going to hand it over to Larry Zarker, and he'll welcome you and tell you about this collaboration that produced these tools, these gifts for you that we're going to be sharing. Larry?
Thank you very much, Deborah. And to be really clear, Deborah is the one who brought all of this together, and she was in touch with DOE and Pacific Northwest National Labs about creating a recruitment toolkit. We really needed a toolkit that we could share throughout the industry, not just with training partners like the BPI Test Center Network, but also with manufacturers, with distributors, with anyone who's trying to bring in new workers into the industry. So this became a great partnership between BPI and the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development, and a whole host of others that we're going to get into in a minute who were advisors and tried out the materials and helped us build the package that we have today. But I really want to say that Pacific Northwest National Lab was a great partner in this and really helped bring this to fruition. Next slide. So a little bit about BPI. We're the nation's premier certification and standard setting organization for home performance professionals. We develop technical standards for home energy audits and for home energy efficiency, health, and safety improvements. We do this through an ANSI accreditation process, both on the standard setting side as well as on the certification side. So the accreditation is really important to us.
Sorry about the glitches where it keeps going back to the to my control panel. I'll try and keep that from happening. I would like to know if you are all able to use the chat, those of you who are in attendance today. If you are, if you could introduce yourself in the chat, either to everybody, that's what we prefer, so people know who's here and we can connect and you can network with each other. And if you can't do that, I'm very interested in, you can at least send it to the organizers and the panelists, because we really want to know who's here. So please take your time to do that, okay? Yeah. All right, and I'm getting rid of this control panel, so it won't keep doing that. Thank you for that. Okay.
So I'll turn it back over to you, Deborah.
Yeah, thanks. And now let me tell you a little bit about the U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development. The U.S. Partnership has been around for 20 years, and we actually are a convener, we're a catalyst, we're a communicator, and we work together with all sectors of society to try and create a more sustainable future in an inclusive way for all of us. So we're really glad to be here. We have a whole bunch of different initiatives that we do nationally and internationally to help create a more sustainable future for all. Why is recruitment so important? Why did we go to the national lab that's part of the U.S. Department of Energy and say, you know, we really need to focus on recruitment? Well, first of all, there's a really high demand, right? Demand for workers is so high. There's a workforce gap that's going on. And not just installers, but of course installers that are specialized in these areas can promote these energy efficient technologies, but also many of the other jobs that go along with those installation jobs. We have a workforce gap. And it's a crucial area because we need to do electrification and decarbonization of our building sector and many other sectors, and then put renewable energies onto the grid and also installed locally. This is part of the science-based target to avoid a climate disaster. And this area is actually the low-hanging fruit, that we have the technologies, we can make this happen, we have the incentives now in place. So recruitment's really important to ramp this up quickly, and of course it makes all of you who own businesses or who are working businesses the ability to grow and to improve your profits and to make a good difference in the world. So here's the crucial webpage, and that's going into the chat. And that you can visit, you can save it, because that's where your gifts are. There you'll find our recruitment toolkit that we put together so that you'll be more efficient. It'll actually be more fun, easier, more effective at recruiting employees and students into this field, into these fields, multiple fields, really. And let's say that you aren't in heat pumps or you're not in home performance, but you're in something related. You'll find this toolkit is useful for you as well, and we encourage you to make use of it as long as you're in the clean energy transition. So the content that's in the toolkit is vetted. We have an advisory committee made up of all of these stakeholders and experts. We then had pilots that used the materials and they shared back their metrics and gave us their feedback. And in addition to input and feedback from these two groups, we also had national engagement partners who used the materials once we refined them, gave us additional feedback so that we could really come up with materials that you can use, customize to your needs. And there's that wonderful website again, and here it is again. The toolkit includes essential recruitment resources. So it's got original content that you can customize. We're going to go into details on that, whether it be outreach via emails or posters or social media. We've got vetted messages that we have tested for effectiveness. We've got customized and customizable so that you can put your own logos and names of companies and contact information or educational institutions, contact information. We've got photos and graphics, and then we've got strategies, key strategies that are going to help you expand your reach. We have other resources in the toolkit as well. In addition to recruiting, we've got some wonderful resources about if you're going to recruit for a diversity of workers, here's some things to keep in mind. And also, once you have workers, how do you retain them so that you don't get high turnover and so that you can build, employees who are loyal to you, and that way you benefit from the skills as they grow them. We've got key messages that we've identified, and as I said, we tested out different messages. We looked at the market research that was already there. We also got some statistically significant results from the pilots that we did. And so these are the messages that we found resonate the most. But don't count on just this slide. When you dig into the toolkit, each of those messages are accompanied by other phrases that you can use and some explanation as to what groups they're most helpful to use them with in terms of recruitment. And then this is our table of contents on the left out of the toolkit. I just want to point out a few things. Connecting with those who advise students about what career to go into can be really valuable if you want to have an ongoing flow of the younger workers. We show you how to do that. We show you how to use other organizations' reach so that you don't have to create your own. One of my favorite areas is how to earn free media coverage. When I started my program, I've taught this for 42 years. We got free TV coverage, free radio coverage, newspaper coverage, and it talks in there about how to do that. And then how do you attract workers who have applicable skills from adjacent industries? There's also this piece of appealing to the parents of the younger students and lowering the barriers. Now, some of you are doing all of this because you recognize the urgency of addressing the worst impacts of climate change. And so some of our materials, but not all of them, are climate change centric. And so it'll appeal to those who are doing this for the environmental reasons. And then we have a whole set of general tips. And that's just one piece of our table of contents. We have complementary essential resources that are going to be really helpful to you. Like, how do you build customer demand for your company and for your product? And how do you grow your business? And then if you're not a business, but you're a community organization, we have a set of key resources for you. We also have links to educational and training materials that you may not have seen before. And we even have testimonials from workers in the field that you can use that help people say, oh, that person looks like me, or that person is talking about things I would be interested in. So we have those essential resources. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. They are going to talk about a checklist that they developed that really helps you keep track of your own efforts. So Sarah, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Deborah. To most effectively use the toolkit, we've created a self-assessment tool called the recruitment checklist, included in Appendix D of the toolkit, as well as for standalone download on our website. And in this checklist, you can keep track of your recruitment efforts and improvement over time. The checklist is designed to be paired with the recruitment toolkit with specific sections that align with the toolkit, titled the same as they are in the recruitment toolkit table of contents, and is active clickable links back to the section if you view it on your computer. This checklist will help you easily and most effectively use the entire toolkit. As you see, with the checklist, you'll rate how frequently your organization has used a given strategy, with the frequency rating being 0 for not at all, 1 for once, 2 for occasionally, and 3 for actively or regularly. This rating scale is highlighted on the first page of the checklist for your convenience. The checklist then also has space so you can describe what your organization has done related to the given strategy, as well as what your organization plans to do or what effective next steps you can take to fully use the strategy. Remember, only you will have access to the data you enter, unless you choose to share it with others. Specifically, this checklist focuses on some of the major areas of the toolkit, including customizable recruitment materials, key recruitment strategies, complementary essential strategies and resources, and building consumer demand and growing your organization. So you can stay updated on all the components of the toolkit. I'll pass it back to Deborah in a second so she can tell you how to. First, I want to emphasize that you can download just the checklist to fill in by visiting the webpage and clicking on the link at this checklist. And you'll see that on the next slide. We created a specific arrow going to those words. You see this checklist. Right where that arrow goes, you can click. So thank you so much, and I'll pass it back.
Yeah, so you know what? The checklist came because we had some contractors that were on our advisory committee and our national engagement partners, and they said, Deborah, there's so much good stuff here. Tell your team that there's so much good stuff here, but it's overwhelming, and I'm a busy contractor. And I remember the days of being a busy contractor. And so you want to get to the stuff quickly. You want to keep track of what you're doing. And so we came up with this idea of the checklist, which they said that's going to make it a lot easier for us to use this stuff and keep track of what we tried and what we haven't yet and what we're going to use ongoing. So there's that checklist for all of you. Very practical. Now we are going to have updates over time of the recruitment materials. And if you just want to get an email, that says, hey, here's an update, go check it out, you can sign up there. All of these links are going into the chat. I hope you see that, okay? And that way it's easy for you to access them. For those of you who are watching the recording, we'll have the complimentary links to you as well. So now I want to turn it over to Angela. She's going to talk about the different ways that people might use this toolkit, given who they are. Angela?
Great. Thank you, Deborah, and thanks for being here, everyone. As Deborah mentioned, I'm going to take you all through a few examples together that will really help to demonstrate how different types of organizations can use this toolkit. So let's dive in. First, let's start with an example of a training organization, say a technical high school, a community college, or a nonprofit offering training, and your goal is to recruit more students to come and take your classes in heat pumps or heat pump water heaters. First, you should
or home performance too, right? Home performance too.
Or home performance, exactly. So for the first step is really to open the checklist in Appendix D or on the homepage that they mentioned. And quick hint, this is how all of these examples are going to start, and we really encourage everyone to check out the checklist as your guide throughout this whole toolkit. And you want to open this to identify the relevant sections of the toolkit for you. And then you would pick the relevant messages and graphics. So if you are an education provider, you might want to think about what age and demographic your potential student body is. What do they care about? Which of these messages do you think will be more effective with them? Or maybe do you want to pick 2 or 3 and test them out in your context? So after you pick the right materials, you really need to get the word out. The toolkit has tested strategies that have worked well for others, like reaching out to career advisors, as Deborah mentioned, and asking them to present your courses, or maybe even hosting and announcing that you have an open house. Once you got your word out, lastly, you might want to think about how you can make your information welcoming and inclusive, right? Whether it is being intentional about the graphics you're using, or thinking through what types of information you are including about your courses. So for example, if you are offering wraparound services or transportation assistance or scholarships, you probably want to include that information in all of your materials to make sure your messaging is welcoming and also stands out. So now let's go on to the next example. And let's say you are a contractor in the home performance space. So very similarly, you would want to open the checklist and choose the materials that you think would work best for your job seeker population, right? So because this is a different population, potentially, the way you get your word out might be a little different. You could call local high schools and community colleges to attend their career fairs to connect directly with your recruits, right? Or even host some workshops at schools yourselves. The toolkit contains a lot more ideas for contractors, so please take a look at those sections specifically. And then lastly, as an employer, you also probably want to think about how to improve your employee retention, specifically thinking about how do you actually establish a welcoming culture and how to establish clear career paths at your company. The step-by-step best practices can be found in the toolkit. So as usual, please reference the checklist to find your way to that section. And then we'll cover one last but not least example. Let's imagine now you are an academic and career advisor. You would, of course, open the checklist, and there's actually a special call out for this type of user on page 2. And examine what messages would work well with your student body. For example, can you think back to any of your students who demonstrated interest in doing something related to climate and sustainability or helping people, or simply wanted a good job in the neighborhood? Then you could go to the section titled Explain the Career Paths to Motivate Interest, where there's a whole suite of tools and career maps that you can start using right now to help students navigate their own careers in this field. So those were the examples. I hope this walkthrough of these different use cases gave you a better sense of how you can start using the toolkit today. Now I will pass it back to Deborah and Kelly to go over the other sections.
Thank you, Angela. That was great. So now we're going to dig in a little bit more into what these recruitment tools are, and so how you can most effectively use them. And I'm going to hand it over to Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you today. I just want to say real quickly, somebody very kindly pointed out that there's an issue with the chat right now. Some of you are not able to use the chat, although you may be seeing chat items from us. I don't know why that is, and I'm really sorry, but some of you guys very industriously use the questions tool to communicate with us. Ask your questions in the question box, and we will answer them as we go along. So Angela and Sarah just gave us a really great primer on how to use the materials. I want to talk for a moment about what these materials actually are, the things that we made for you to use. To begin with, when we started this project, we were very quickly informed by all of our partners that the images that were commercially available to them and to us did not look like their audiences. For one, the work being done was not very clearly representative of real home performance work. If you ever go on Adobe stock and look around, you don't find a whole lot of home performance work there. You do find some HVAC work. And the majority of the people who are in those photos, they are suspiciously light. And they let us know that in order to have a really effective portfolio of materials, we really needed to get diverse populations who really do the work photographed while doing the work. And I actually want to give a shout out. I can see here that September Ward is in attendance. September works for MyTech, a BPI test center, and September actually made the connection between us and one of our pilot sites, and they ended up being the host. We decided to commission a photo shoot, and Wayne Metro Community Action Partnership in the Detroit Flint area worked with us to create a photo shoot of their weatherization workers working in their test house, and that is who you see. These are, in fact, real weatherization workers there, and we are incredibly proud of them. We're very happy to have this, and we are so thankful to September for having made this happen. So you will see when you go to that recruitment tools page, and perhaps Sarah, you would pop that link in the chat again, a whole portfolio of social media graphics, about 8 or so different basic designs, with 7 themes around those themes are the messages that we consistently found in our research were motivating to people to come into this field of work. The ones who came and they stayed and they like the work, these are the reasons they give. I want to be a hero. I want to help my community. I want to help people save energy. I want to save the planet. So the information that we got from our pilot and advisory partners really drove these results that you see. Go ahead to the next slide, if you would, Deb. Social media graphics formatted for every the major social media platforms. In the recruitment toolkit, which is that really encyclopedic, like 38-page document, there is a link to Canva templates. You do have to access them through the recruitment toolkit because we are not yet a Canva publisher. But you'll get all of those social media tools in editable form so that you can customize more completely. When you look at these materials, you'll notice there's a lot of white space. That is so that you can put your logo, your brand name, your program details, your training dates, your starting wages, all of that stuff on there, along with these messages that we already know are quite compelling. Adobe files are also linked in the toolkit. If you are a power user, you've got professional designers on your staff and they are happy to muck around, please go ahead and do that. Download them. You can download PDF flyers and print them out or mail them, post them in your training site. Download these things, put them on your website. Anytime you're giving a presentation, go ahead and stick one of these things in there and keep on sharing the word. Next slide, Deb. As I said earlier, the lack of high quality photos that are representative of the people who are actually doing this work was a very, very prominent need. Sydney Anderson is the photographer who did this work. She was incredible. And not only did we make the materials, but we actually made the complete library of high quality photos available to you to download for free. They are on bpi.org. Go to that recruitment tools page, download these photos and use them any way you like. They are big. They are high quality. It is the exact same product that you would be getting from Adobe stock or anything like that. Go ahead to the next one. And testimonial videos. What you will see if you go to Recruitment Tools, the video page right now, is you will see there is one video embedded there for download. This is our first interviewee, Wesley Booker with Block Power. There are 3 more videos available on our YouTube page. We talked to early to mid-career professionals about why they chose this career, what they like. How does this pay work for you? Why do you feel proud of your work? And we came out with these absolutely wonderful videos of people talking about, these really moving experiences of becoming of having a career that they're really proud of. They feel like a professional. They feel like they're making a difference. I think they're incredibly compelling. Please do check them out. I'm going to post the link here in the chat in just a moment. But for now, go ahead, Deb. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we didn't just create our own materials for you. We also looked at what was out there and pulled them into the toolkit so you don't have to find them separately. So the National Council for Workforce Education, which is what NCWE stands for, is the primary council for the American Association of Community Colleges. They're made up of the occupational and workforce deans in community colleges throughout the country. And they put together a toolkit on strategies to recruit more Black, Indigenous, and people of color and women to these green skilled trades and crafts and STEM job training. And like I say, studies have been done that show that companies do better when they have a diverse workforce, but also we have incentives that are aligned for this kind of diversity and reaching out to groups that may not traditionally have been a part of your workforce. And here's a book that helps you do that, a booklet, I should say, and a very useful one. We also found some great materials from NYSERDA. These initiatives coming out of New York is like Energize Your Career is a great website, Road Trip Nation, They've got videos, career stories, and people can go in and see, self-discover what makes sense for them. So we've got links to that. Now, we're glad that you're here. That means that you're probably going to use this well, and I'm so glad to see that. But we also want you to share it out with others in your network. This was designed to be used nationally and to take recruitment to scale so we could get rid of this workforce gap that we have. So we actually have a button on how you can share the toolkit. And you can either access it through the main page, bpi.org/recruitment-tools, or Sarah right now is putting into the chat the link to go directly to the Share the Toolkit button. So we hope you'll do that. And it's posts that have already been out in social media. All you have to do is repost and like from the top of the page, but also materials so you can create your own posts, your own emails, your own newsletter announcements. So please do share this out so that we can really help this country be where it needs to be. Now, in addition to everything there, and changing topics just a little bit, and then we're going to open it up for discussion and questions and answers, I want to share with you two important advocacy opportunities. The U.S. Partnership for Education for Sustainable Development has a youth sector team, and that youth sector is called Change the Chamber. And so they are a part of a coalition that watches what's going on in terms of policies and regulations. So the Biden administration right now and congressional leaders have an opportunity to take action on two things, both of which impact us in the fields we're in. One is on extreme heat and how that affects our workers, and the other is on funds for low-income energy assistance. So a wonderful sign-on letter has been put together. We make this easy for you, and it's addressed to these leaders in Congress and to the administration, and it says, we need expansion of disaster relief funding and resources that will help to endure this extreme heat that we're experiencing at unprecedented levels. And the same sign-on letter asks for support for efforts via appropriations and this particular area, the heating and cooling one, to increase funding for the low-income energy assistance program. So, of course, that's directly going to help many in this industry. And so the sign-on letter, we're putting that link right into the chat. Now, because the youth have done the work on this in collaboration with a whole coalition of organizations, we ask that when you sign the letter, and the link to the letter is in the chat, that you also, on the form, it asks for a referral organization. Can you just put Change the Chamber so the young adults get credit for that? Sarah's one of them. They're on like 10 meetings a week. Almost all of them are volunteer, and they really are committed to helping to create a greener and better future for all of us. But they need this acknowledgement that you heard about it from them. So on the form where it asks for a referral organization, put Change the Chamber, okay? So that's the first advocacy, and here's the second one. The second one is the Department of Labor and OSHA. You guys know OSHA, right? They proposed a new standard in July to protect workers from extreme heat. And it's just basic things, right? Like they should have available drinking water, and they should have training to detect the signs of heat stroke, and there should be breaks when it's extreme heat. And so it's about enhancing workplace safety. And there's a form here where you can submit. You know how they want comments in the government when they put forth a regulation. So here's where they're collecting comments about it. And it would be really helpful to help get these standards finalized if you would submit a comment in support of them. And once again, on the form where it asks for the referral organization, please put Change the Chamber. It's one of the choices you'll see in the drop-down menu. So that's our advocacy opportunities that we have for today. But now I want to go back to the toolkit. And if you can't use the chat, but you can use the question and answer box, great. If you can't use either of them, then we'll have you also unmute your microphone so we can hear from you. If we can do that, maybe Kelly, you can check on that. What are you most excited about in terms of using the toolkit and the materials that we've shared today? We want to hear about those. What did you not see today that you wish was included so that we know what to do moving forward? And then just in general, what questions or comments do you have? So if you could think about those, share those with us. There's dozens of you that are on here today, and I think a few hundred more that are going to be seeing the recording. And also, if you've already done things that are successful in terms of recruitment that wasn't mentioned today, if you could share that so that others can benefit from it as well. We all need to contribute to creating more successes across the country in this. Like, I'll give you one little one, right? I would call the biggest radio station, and I'm out of Detroit, and I would say, look, I've got a great news story for your listeners. I can tell them how to reduce their utility bills in no cost and low cost ways, and we're also having an open house where they can hear about career pathways, and they can also meet people who are in the field. So over and over again, got free media coverage with taking that approach. And you can connect with your educational institution and get that kind of support. Okay,
Deborah,
so
Deborah, we have a response from Jake Knuckles in the questions. What I think this is what he is excited about is community engagement and recruiting for weatherization world from high schools and getting others excited about this as a growing job market. Cameron Negro says, or perhaps Negro, I'm not sure if I got that correct. As a course creator for a training center, I am excited to have a range of stock photos that represent the work being done.
excellent.
Javier Montalvo says, how can an organization recruit contractors to participate in workforce programs that connect contractors with vetted clean energy job seekers?
Yeah, so what I would say, you need to reach out. So when we did a project in Illinois, and we actually created a list of all the heating and cooling contractors that we could find. We got part of that list from the utilities. We got part of the list from the office. We got part of the list just by looking at through the web and other ways that they would advertise. And we would reach out and say, look, we have workers for you. They're vetted workers. They're workers that you'll be excited to interview and hire. And then we would hold sessions sometimes for them. Please just go to the Career Center of a community college. A lot of heating and cooling students never go there, or construction students. They never go to the Career Center. And if they do, the jobs post a mess of all these other jobs that are out there. So inside the toolkit is a worksheet that actually tells you how to connect more effectively with educational institutions. But one of the things that I always recommend is you call the college. You say, I'd like to talk to the head of the heating and cooling program. Who's the faculty in charge there? Or I'd like to talk to the construction program if that's the one you're going for. And who do I talk to there? And you call, you make a connection, and you tell them that you want workers and the other way around. When I was working in the heating and cooling program, we would reach out to the company, and we would hold conferences, we would hold small advisory committee events, we would just make phone calls and say, look, we've got students for you. And it's about building long-term relationships, not one-shot deals, right? So you take some notes on who they are and their company and where they want to be in a couple of years, and then you talk about how your students can help them meet their needs. So I hope that's useful to you, and if it's not, you can put more questions into the chat about that, but also look in that sheet that's in the toolkit about connecting. We've also found that if you use some of these graphics with the messages, you can actually email out to those organizations with these compelling messages and graphics. That tends to get their attention as well. So here's updates the new recruitment tools, the form you can fill out as you see on the slide. You can also email marketing@bpi.org if you have any trouble or you can't. Some organizations, they don't let you access Google Forms. We want to make sure you're all included. And there's our contact information. So take that down now, or also, did you put it in the chat, Sarah? Because I'm going to stop sharing my slides in just a little bit so we can look at you and get any more interaction that's there. So anything else that's come in through the chat?
Real quickly, Deborah, I had a comment that I'd like to make, and that is, if you use the toolkit and you make modifications to showcase your own programs and you feel like sharing it with us, we would like to see what you come up with and see how it's being used. You know, this is really the grist that you can work with, but if you send it out and you're using it for recruitment, it would be great if you could send us a copy so we can see what you're doing.
I agree, and I just want to say that in general, if you're in part of the marketing operations on the daily, tag BPI in your photos when whatever you're doing is relevant to us. We are always looking for organizations to amplify and share what you're doing and share the success of this industry. Tag us on whatever platform you use, and we will like and comment and share and all that good stuff. Recently, I saw our first example of some of these designs being used in the wild. It was a small organization in California that helps connect people leaving prison to the workforce, and it looks so nice. It was a real moment of joy, so please do share them.
Great. Also notice in the chat that Green Workforce Connect was mentioned as a resource that it's inside the toolkit, but we didn't mention it specifically. Great materials there as well, very complementary to what we've created here. And actually BPI is working very closely with them as a partner. Okay? Yeah. Will you please make sure to do those sign-on letters if you would, because we really need that ongoing policy and regulatory support. Okay. Anything else that you all want to cover? Okay, Kelly, I know you're going to put together
We have one more question. Right? We have one more question, and it is David Prina who says, thank you for these great resources. I want to know if you have Spanish language versions of these materials. And the answer to that, is at this moment, there are not. But I think that's such a great suggestion. Translating the recruitment materials themselves, the social media posts, is relatively lightweight. Translating the checklist and the recruitment toolkit is a heavier lift. Deborah, what do you think about that as a piece of future work?
Yeah, so we don't have funding for that. It would be great if we'd been given funding for that. I agree with you. I think it's really important. So here's what I would suggest. I don't know about you, but I was really bored in Spanish class when I was in high school. Wouldn't it be great if we could just turn to a local institution and say, will you take this on as a project and have your students do this? And that way the bulk of the work gets done, and then just some experts, you know, the native speakers need to just refine it. And if we could have somebody who wants to do that and collaborate with us on that, I think that would be wonderful. And then we would create that kind of a version. It might be in a Word doc instead of a PDF, or a PDF version of a Word doc. But I do think that that would be very worthwhile. So please, if you're interested, do reach out to us on that, because we need it, right?
I can also add that our toolkit isn't in Spanish, but we have links to testimonials within the toolkit, and on one of their links, there are Spanish testimonies.
You can also, if you are a person who wants to do that, either by connecting a high school Spanish class, not a beginning class, right? Or some other Spanish speaking organization, right? There might be a nonprofit that's just got members who want to do it on a pro bono basis, or a college class. just contact marketing@bpi.org so that we know that you want to do it, and then we'll take it from there. Thanks. Great idea.
Carl Ulibari asked if we will be sharing the webinar slide deck. Yes, we can do that. We will send a follow-up email. You can get the slide deck.
And all of the links are in the speaker notes underneath each of the slides. Great. Anything else other than, hey, congratulations on what I know is going to be a future of getting more of the students and the employees that you want? Okay, then we'll give you back some of your time. Thank you to the team. I really, really appreciate all the great work that went into this, of course. And as you use it, give us feedback as well so that we can continue to improve it to meet your needs. Thank you for being in such an important position at this time for our country. And we thank you for your follow through. Okay. Bye-bye for now.